Okay, last night the ICC ballots were announced. The nominees were posted on the Movie Awards Forum, the former Oscar Buzz board on the IMDb website. And a lot of interestingness happened. A lot of surprises. A lot of love for Cloud Atlas, which is awesome because Cloud Atlas was amazing. Argo getting snubbed at a picture just blows my mind. A lot of love for Perks of Being a Wallflower, which was awesome. A lot of love for Killer Joe, Moonrise Kingdom, and The Dark Knight Rises, which was awesome. Way too much love for more. I was really happy Holy Motors got so many nominations. But, I made my ballot, and I'll probably talk about that in the next couple of days. But I'm on a time crunch right now because in about 45 minutes or so, Alan will be here to pick me up to take me to work. And I'm going to work 2 hours early because, like I showed you last night, I didn't actually show you the product, and I really don't want to talk about it, but when I banged my toe into the bottom of the stand by the couch, it's all black and blue now, so yeah, I don't want to walk on if I don't have to, and I'm not going to, so Alan's going to take me to work, and that's pretty awesome. So, that's how I'm starting my day. Luckily, it doesn't hurt as much as it did yesterday, but I haven't really walked on it that much yet, and we'll see how it happens as the day progresses. Now, last night, oh, here's another interesting thing about last night. TJ and I worked pretty much every Monday night, and sucks because I have to miss Raw Live, so no more live tweeting Raw, so unless something changes, probably not going to happen, guys, not anymore. But, basically, we went to McDonald's like we normally do, at the same McDonald's we always do, and there was a sign that said closed at 11 p.m., and it was like 11:30, 11:40, something or in that time frame. So there's only another McDonald's that's down the road. It's closer to the mall, actually, where I work, and we went there. And usually they're closed like 10. But it was awesome because there was actually a drive-thru open, and I got my McDonald's. Now, the Fish McBites, which are awesome, by the way, are $1 from today through the 14th. So I totally missed out on those, and that's not cool whatsoever. But because of Thursday's plans, I will probably get my $1 Fish McBites. So that's a good thing, 100%. Now, it is Monday morning, and we all know how we do here on the awesome YouTube channel of myself, Sir Owen Disney. It's time for the Monday Night Raw recap. And tonight, or last night, we were in Nashville, Tennessee. And there was a lot of pictures that were posted on the internet, mainly on the SNS Radio Network Facebook page, like you do, about somebody that was in Nashville last night, and I'm sure he was in Nashville last night to watch a Predators game. Yes, The Undertaker was not on Raw, and he had no reason to be on Raw, and I didn't buy into it. I just thought, Meltzer, it's possible, I don't know, no reason for it to happen. So, if they're going to do anything with Punk Taker, it has to start at the Elimination Chamber. But I can't see Taker costing Punk the match, like running out or anything like that. Maybe the lights go out. Maybe we hear the dong. I know when the lights went out last night, obviously they were putting over the fact that the Shield was getting a taste of their own medicine. But there was a part of me that was thinking, we'll bring the Undertaker back this way. In a match with the Shield, that wouldn't be bad because he could beat them and not really have to work, because they'd probably end up being a tag match, because I don't see them running like a Shield gauntlet. Not yet. Eventually, but not yet. But I'll talk about that in a bit. So, I don't care about last week's Raw, because last week's Raw said and done. So, voiceover guy, we're going to skip you. Sorry. And you were better than TNA anyway. So we start off with Paul Heyman in the ring, and he said he was going to make a monumentous announcement on Tout. Yes, they still promote Tout. Not as much as they used to, but they still promote Tout. And Heyman came out and basically said that this is the very last time we will see him. And the fans popped for it, obviously, because there's a lot of people that don't like Paul Heyman. More so than don't. More so do than don't, but I'll get to that in a minute. He basically says, how can we cheer for something like that? How can they cheer for him? He created ECW, and he introduced the world to a rookie who was languishing away in a tag team with Shelton Benjamin called the Minnesota Stretching Crew in OVW named Brock Lesnar. And he saw something, obviously, in an independent journeyman who has been all over the world, Ring of Honor, IWA, Mid-South, CZW, and all places, all points in between, in CM Punk. And when he had the book in OVW, obviously they treated Punk like he was the second coming. And I knew back then that Punk was going to be huge. I even knew back when he wasn't wearing the bikers like he is now, like, or Big Daddy Donnie would call it. He's not wearing the weens. He was wearing the boxing trunks, like the short trunks, like the baggy shorts. And he was doing the Pepsi plunge, and he had the hair all bushy, and totally a different Punk if you watch him back when he started versus now. He has matured so much as a wrestler, as a worker, and as a person in general. But basically, Paul Heyman came out, he said that Vince believed that he paid off the Shield, and he had Brad Maddox on the payroll, and it wasn't true. And he also said that he's the one that set Lesnar to take out Vince himself, and all of this was a total lie. And there's a lot of Paul Heyman guys out in the crowd, and obviously this happened. So, pretty much, excuse me, one of my favorite things, and I don't know what the actual reference is. I know it from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. But basically he says, we don't have to be Nostradamus in a sense. Sorry, we don't have to be Nostradamus to sense that something bad is going to happen. Paul says the sword of Damocles is hanging over his head, and it will fall. And not only will it fall on him, but all those around him, including CM Punk. The sins of the mentor will fall onto the protege, and Heyman just won't allow that. So, he basically said he was tendering his resignation. He won't miss the universe, of course not, why would he? And he's not that surprised they wouldn't shed a tear for someone who's willing to make a sacrifice he's about to make. He loves Punk, and he won't stand in his way. And then he says, simply, goodbye. So Cult of Personality hits, and Punk comes out. He says he's unsure. He's basically, his opinions are shown by his mannerisms and how he looks when he comes out. He looks like he's unsure what to make of what Paul just said. He's basically trying to convince Paul to stay. He says Heyman, he asks him what he's doing. Paul basically says he's in Punk's way, and McMahon believes he paid off the Shield and Brad Maddox and Brock Lesnar to take him out, like I said earlier. But that's just mere perception, and Punk doesn't believe it, and says there are a whole lot of Paul Heyman guys out there who need him, and they marked out for it, honestly. The crowd actually cheered for Heyman for a bit. Heyman says, in the world of the McMahons, perception is reality, and he won't be a martyr, only for Punk to suffer at Vince's hand. And if you thought it was bad what was done at the Royal Rumble to you, you thought you got screwed then, could you just imagine what's going to happen when Vince comes back? But basically, Punk says this bad dream is going to end at Elimination Chamber, and Heyman will be in the corner of the man who will beat The Rock and continue his reign undaunted. Heyman looks inspired and full of vigor once again. He agrees to be in the corner. They embrace like the best of brothers with Heyman in tears. They raise each other's hand as a celebration of the unresignation. Now, I like this, honestly. It was a good way to tease and get Paul Heyman to reveal a little bit more of an emotional side. And it wasn't crap like some people who can't show any emotion, like Ryback. But when it comes down to it, sorry, I really don't like the guy. No offense to Ryan Reeves, I don't like your character, sir. But when it comes down to it, it works really well, and it gets more ammunition for Elimination Chamber on Sunday. Next thing you know, excuse me, I'm sciences today once again. So we see the dreadlocked predator himself, the world's strongest man, Mark Henry, and he's going to be next. And of course, after a commercial break, that's exactly what happens. We basically cut to the Punjabi Playboy, the Great Khali, the criminally underused Natalya Neidhart, and Hornswoggle, who still has a job, and I don't know why. But basically, we have a recap basically showing how Mark Henry wanted to get in the Elimination Chamber, and he did so by squashing Randy Orton like a bug on SmackDown Friday night. So, also, Rey Mysterio, who was already in the chamber anyway, via the attack on Mysterio and Sin Cara on Raw last Monday night, he was out of the chamber as well. So that leaves another spot open for someone to take it, and someone to impress Teddy Long and Booker T in order to get that spot, but I'll get to them in a minute. So Khali basically went to work right away with chops, and chops, and chops, and headbutts, and clotheslines. And you know what? He went over for a last chop, and he went to the well once too often, and he got headbutted really hard by Mark Henry. He nailed Khali with a clothesline, and Khali bumped like he just started wrestling school. And World's Strongest Slam, Khali was finished. 2-minute squash, fine. Bring Mark Henry back, and pretty much re-establish the World's Strongest Man character. Now, the problem with that is, we already saw Claudio Castagnoli, Antonio Cesaro, do the neutralizer to Khali twice. A power slam is one thing, but the Gotch-style neutralizer is quite another. And the neutralizer looks a lot more impressive strength-wise. But it wasn't the only time that we would see Cesaro utilize his strength. But we'll talk about that later on as we progress. So after this, Hornswoggle gets in the ring, and Natty's in the ring. And of course, thank God she powders. And Mark Henry slides under the bottom rope and grabs Hornswoggle, and to the delight of every smart fan in the world, gives him the World's Strongest Slam. Yelling, "That's what I do." I like the catchphrase. It works really well. And everybody was really happy with it. Now, honestly, you made a couple of children mad because they like Hornswoggle because they're kids, so obviously they're going to like Hornswoggle. And he's very prevalent in that WWE Kids magazine that I'm not quite sure if it's been discontinued or not, because I haven't seen it in a while on newsstands. But then again, I don't know what a newsstand it is anymore, because our bookstore is bare bones, to say the least, and Walmart doesn't carry it. So, I don't know. But you're trying to reestablish Mark Henry as a monster. I get that, 100%. You have him destroy Titus O'Neil on SmackDown, and Khali, and then you go after Khali again on Raw and take him down, and then you have him squash Hornswoggle. That's fine, but Hornswoggle is hated too much by a lot of the wrestling purists, so that's going to get him a babyface reaction. And that it did, because there actually was a faint chant that was a little bit more than faint, actually. It was a kind of a louder chant for "one more time." So, basically, Mark Henry is going to be facing Randy Orton in a rematch on SmackDown this coming Friday, which of course is taped tonight. And basically we saw Teddy Long and Booker T talking about Mark Henry's credentials, and Chris Jericho approaches them and says he wants a piece of the action. He wants in the Elimination Chamber. And they thought about it, and they realized that he's a former 6-time world champion, and he's been in the most chamber matches of any superstar on the roster, past or present. But Booker says he needs to approve it first. So Teddy makes a suggestion, whispers in Booker's ear, and Booker says, well, you know what, that sucks. So Jericho's going to prove himself in another way. And that's going to be by facing someone else in the Elimination Chamber. And immediately, a light bulb went off in my head, and I was thinking, will they do it? And sure enough, they did. They gave us Chris Jericho and Daniel Bryan on free television. And it was glorious. But I will talk about that in a minute. And basically Jericho says that Bryan is tough, and he said he's going to take Daniel Bearden down. It was kind of funny. go to WrestleMania and become a 7-time world champion. Can you dig that, sucker? Worst Booker T ever. But I wasn't trying to impersonate Booker T. But he basically did that right in Booker's face and made Teddy laugh. So, Booker was looking at him with his look of disbelief. And then we ended the segment. Vicky was in her office, and Paul Heyman knocked, and she was talking on the phone with Vince McMahon, who, of course, is convalescing from his very successful hip surgery. And Heyman says, make time for me, I have an idea for a stipulation for the WWE title match at the Elimination Chamber. And basically, she says, I'm going to have to run it by Vince first. And Heyman basically says, she runs the show in his absence. It's all about her. And, of course, when the phone rings this time, it is Vince. And he's put on speakerphone. So Heyman just says, congratulations on your Herculean effort to come back to the company after what happened. And going through rehab so quickly. Vince tells him to shut up in no uncertain terms. And he asks about what stipulation you have in mind. Basically, Heyman says if The Rock gets counted out or disqualified, then Punk gets the title back. So Vince agrees, and he says it's as long as it's in writing. Now, one thing that was kind of glossed over a bit. Heyman said he would do anything in order to get Punk the stipulation. I think that's going to come back to bite him in the ass on Sunday. So, yeah. Exactly, just like I'm reading on the 411 Mania review, this won't end well, and it won't. So, basically, our next match was Chris Jericho and Daniel Bryan, and for you purists that have been following everything, that followed NXT when Daniel Bryan first started in WWE as an active competitor, and he wasn't just enhancement talent on Superstars or Jacked or Metal or a dark match on SmackDown or Raw here and there. When Daniel Bryan started out on Raw, he was a part of NXT, and of course NXT involved Heath Slater and Wade Barrett and Ryback, and a lot of the future superstars and not so future superstars, Darren Young. I mean, there was a lot of NXT talent. Of course, they formed the Nexus, and we all know where that went. Totally a lost opportunity for WWE, because you start off really hot with them, the Nexus just destroy everybody, and destroy the ring, and just leave chaos and carnage in their wake. And then the next week, it's fired Bryan Danielson for choking Justin Roberts with his tie, and then pretty much just put the kibosh on any craziness. So, lost opportunity with the Nexus. I like to see what they're doing with Wade Barrett, though. And I like to see what they're doing with Heath Slater now, because I like 3MB. But, we'll talk about them later. So, basically, the match with Jericho and Daniel Bryan. If you did not see NXT, go look it up. Guys, honestly, go to YouTube. You're already on my channel anyway, so type in Chris Jericho versus Daniel Bryan, NXT Season 1. Oh, amazing match. So, we go back and forth. We go about 10 minutes, and we're going to go to the finish here. So, Jericho goes for the walls of Jericho. Bryan rolls out. Jericho hits a shoulder block, goes for the lion salt, and of course, Bryan gets the knees up. Bryan goes up top, and Jericho stops him. Bryan blocks a superplex attempt and knocks him down. Hits the Benoit Swan Dive headbutt for a 2 count only. Goes for the Tajiri-style buzzsaw kick. He sweeps over, goes for the Lion Tamer once again, but this time it's a very deep Walls of Jericho. I don't know why Michael Cole is calling it the Lion Tamer. Jericho has used the Lion Tamer, and actually, if I remember correctly, he tapped out Daniel Bryan with the Lion Tamer on the NXT match originally, because Lion Tamer is the knee in the small of the back, Boston Crab with the elevation, and the Walls of Jericho is the deep Boston Crab, come on baby, with of course the prerequisite Hulk pose. So, Bryan rolled through again, nails Jericho with a buzzsaw kick, gets a very, very, very close near fall. Goes for the kicks, the no kicks, and he's basically got Jericho rocking. He goes for one last one, he counters it, rolls him up 1-2, and Bryan kicks out. He stands up, bam, Codebreaker, 1, 2, 3. And what a tremendous 10-minute, almost 11-minute match between Chris Jericho and Daniel Bryan. And these two have not seen the last of in-ring competition against each other, and bring it on. More Jericho and Bryan? Sign me up right now. So Jericho, Mark Henry, Daniel Bryan, all in the Elimination Chamber. So, we'll talk about that later on. And, next match was a 6-man with the only 6-man team that's regular, which is the 3-man band. In the ring, doing their air guitar shtick, and basically the match was total squash, like you totally believed it would be. So, Slater ended up starting off with Ryback, which is a nice NXT reference, and Ryback press slammed him. Sheamus comes in with clubbing blows, tagging to Drew McIntyre. So McIntyre and Sheamus went at it for a while, and we forgot the fact that basically Drew McIntyre is a credible wrestler and could have a really good program with Sheamus once the 3MB is over. Right now, I don't think the fans would take him seriously enough to go through with a program with Sheamus, but it's something you can do down the road, because obviously they forgot the mantra of the Chosen One, because the fans want us to forget that, and Vince obviously wants us to forget that we even thought of that. But then again, Vince also wants us to forget about Skip Sheffield too, so it's a mixed bag, it really is. And he hits the clubbing blows on the chest. Cena tags in, and so does Jinder Mahal. And 5 moves of doom. Slater sets up the save after the FU. Sheamus and Ryback come in, and it was pretty much an FU attempt. So White Noise, Shell Shock, and the FU, all 3 in succession, and 1, 2, 3. After the match, they give Ryback the mic, which they should never do. And he basically says the day has come for the Shield. Sheamus tells everyone the Shield is in attendance this evening, and he wonders why he's waiting until Sunday to fight. Cena agrees, says the choice to come here and address everyone was a brave but very stupid one. The Shield meets the Sword, justice meets the law. He is Cena, they are Ryback, and Sheamus. You want some, come get some. And of course, if you're a wrestling purist, I'm the DFG, and if you don't like me, bat me. Yeah, Rick Steiner reference. Haven't brought him up, like, ever. So, last Friday, we watched Alberto Del Rio and Ricardo Rodriguez prank the Big Show, like, basically dump, like, a ginormous gallon of orange paint on him, and totally jacked his bus, which was funny. Basically, everybody was laughing, and we go back to footage from earlier today where we see Alex Riley and Yoshi Tatsu on Raw. Oh my god! It's incredible! And they're ripping on the Big Show, and they're shooting on him, and all of a sudden the show shows up, bam, bam, over. And he just punched him out, scowls, and walks off. So Big Show comes out in his suit, his custom-made tailored suit, and basically Matt Stryker is in the ring, and you know this isn't going to end well. Stryker gets about maybe a word and a half out. Bam! Done. And just punched him. That bam, done, I'm not talking about Emerald. It's literally just him, the punch. Just boom. Just knockout right away. So Show gets on the mic, and he doesn't talk at all. He doesn't say a word. So the audience is heckling him left and right. He tries to compose himself, and he just gets madder and madder. And Michael Cole puts over the fact that what the Show could say right this moment would probably be censored, so he thought better of saying it. And of course, we recap the historic and monumental Hall of Fame induction of Bruno Sammartino into the WWE 2013 Hall of Fame. Thank you, Triple H, in more ways than one. And we get a nice little video package about his career, talking about his rise to fame, all the way from Italy to the US, showing how he broke Stan Hansen's hand when he won the WWF Championship in 48 seconds with the longest ever title reign, which is 4,040 days in the company's history, and becoming a legitimate MSG box office sellout. Great move for Bruno to go in the Hall in MSG. Bruno, Backlund, Mick Foley all make total sense when it comes to New York. Trish Stratus, I'm glad she's in there, and she totally deserves it, but I think I would have saved it for Toronto WrestleMania. And if Toronto is not in the market for Mania, then I would have held it back. But if that means that we're not getting a Canada WrestleMania, then that's not a good thing, because Toronto was a really awesome crowd the 2 times that they've been utilized for WrestleMania. And I think a Trish induction would have been amazing. Trish, and then I don't know how you would do it, but find a way to put Owen Hart into the Hall of Fame, because obviously, you know, Sir Owen is a tribute to Owen Hart. So when he won the King of the Ring, I thought there was a King Owen, so I thought there needed to be a Sir Owen, and I became Sir Owen. So I took my name from Owen Hart, and yeah, so he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Randy Savage belongs in the Hall of Fame. Brian Pillman belongs in the Hall of Fame. Ravishing Rick Rude belongs in the Hall of Fame. A lot of superstars belong in the Hall of Fame. If Koko Beware, no offense, can be in the Hall of Fame, and was inducted by the Honky Tonk Man, who is not in the Hall of Fame, just blows my mind who's in the Hall of Fame and who's not. Up next, we saw Jack Swagger. Of course, still looking gruff, still looking very Jake Hager-ish. And he comes out, and he's got someone with him. And upon closer inspection, Dutch Mantell returned to WWE. And it's really awesome because we're in Nashville. Of course, Nashville, a lot of shows at the Nashville Fairgrounds for USWA. Of course, Dirty Dutch Mantell, very prevalent in USWA lore. And, of course, Dutch Mantell used to be a manager in the mid-90s in the WWF, known as Uncle Zebekiah. He managed, when Ron and Don Harris went to WWE, they were called Jacob and Eli Blue. They were the Blues Brothers. Yeah, I know. And basically they were managed by Uncle Zebekiah. Well, smart move from Jerry Lawler, because obviously we knew exactly who he was, but they put over the fact that, oh my god, it's Zeb Coulter. I don't know why he's Zeb Coulter, but I understand why you're calling him Zeb, because it's a nice nod for all of us purists to Uncle Zebekiah. And he came out with Jack Swagger, and of course, Swagger faced Zack Ryder. And I'm happy Ryder got on television, because I'm still a Zack Ryder supporter, even though he's losing a lot of his momentum due to the fact that Z True Long Island Story is no longer on YouTube, or shown anywhere. So, basically, Swagger hit a waistlock, slams Ryder, he drives him in the corner, and he set up high face him a little bit, like slaps him around. So Ryder gets pissed, and he elbows him and hits the missile dropkick, which always looks like he's way too close, like the guy he's facing is way too close. And he hits the Otani boot scrape, the Broski boot, and only gets the near fall. Swagger rolls to the outside. Ryder flies after him with a pescado, gets caught. In a very awkward manner, Swagger picks him up and carries him belly-to-belly suplexing him onto the ground. He rolls him back in, he Pillman clips the knee. Well, actually, he dove into the knee. I mean, Pillman clips a whole different thing. I mean, you want to watch a Pillman clip done right now, you go back to when Wes Briscoe and Garrett Bischoff turned on Kurt Angle in the steel cage on Impact, because that's a Pillman clip. But basically, he dove in and took the knee out, of course, setting up the ankle lock. And that's exactly what happened soon. So, he knees him in the corner. Ryder got the knees up on the charge. Swagger caught him with going for the Rough Rider, and he buckle bombed him. An old Just Incredible move that you see a lot in the video games. He hit the gut wrench powerbomb, locked on the Patriot Act, and I'll quote JJ Sexay on this. He tap, tap, tap like Sammy Davis Jr. right there, folks. And Ryder, of course, he got a bloody mouth in the match. Basically, he got busted open because when Swagger was slapping him around, he basically bloodied his mouth, and you could tell Ryder was agitated because when he hit the missile dropkick, he had the look of anger in his eyes. When he hit the Broski boot, he wanted to hit it, and he did. So basically, Zeb got in the ring, and he introduced us to Jack Swagger. He says he's a friend of mine. He basically is talking about America and how it's lost its way. The country is about real Americans like him and Swagger, not about the people crossing our borders, which means he's headed for a collision course with Alberto Del Rio. And I have zero problems with that, because these matches will be really good. He says the truth behind it is that America has turned for the very worst, and he and Swagger plan to make us see what it should really be about. We real Americans, we real patriots, we the people. We need to put more words in Wee's promo to make it sense, because that's not a sentence. But still, awesome, and I'm so happy the Dirty Dutch Mantell is back in the company, and that's great. So, basically, Teddy and Booker agree that Swagger's been dominant, and he's in the chamber now. So, we see our first Dolph Ziggler sighting of the evening with Biggie Langston and AJ looking so gorgeous, like she always does. Objecting to Swagger's involvement, Wondering why Ziggler even cares, Booker basically asks him, and given that he's chickened out of the chamber, Ziggler says he doesn't have to compete. He's got the briefcase, so it doesn't really matter. But he wonders why Jericho has a shot, because he ran him out of the company back in August, and he says he shouldn't even be here. So he says if Jericho's in, so am I. So Booker says if Ziggler wants in, then he has to compete. With Big E Langston saying, yes, Ziggler wants in, of course, because Big E Langston is robot, and he is man, and he does whatever he wants with his Jamaican bobsled gear. And, yeah, seriously, honestly, Big E Langston literally looks like one of the Jamaican bobsledders from Cool Runnings got into some serious HGH. Because, my God, he's like, Jay Cutler who? But, really random reference that most of you won't get. So Ziggler is in if he beats his opponent. Ziggs asks who his opponent is. The Big Red Machine Kane. So Ziggler is not pleased with this. So we see very European United States champion Antonio Cesaro on commentary as we get to our next match. Mustachio himself, without the beard, unless you're doing house shows against the New Age Outlaws. Cody Rhodes, the master of the Triforce, and the king of Legend of Zelda, basically comes out to face the Miz, a very angry Miz. So the match goes about 3 minutes, honestly. Cody counters the old school expulsion and shoves Miz to the corner. Miz tosses Cody over the rope awkwardly. Cody lands on the ring apron. Miz slides through and drops him on the apron face first. So he mouths off to Cesaro, and Cesaro charges him. Yakuza kicks him right in the face. Kicks Cody in the midsection, throws him back in the ring. Cesaro charges in, rams him right in the steel post, and we get a disqualification. So Cesaro beats down the Miz, and in tremendous strength showing. Cesaro, of course, used to do the giant swing a lot. In Ring of Honor, PWG, pretty much Shikara, any place that he worked. And he used the giant swing. But basically he was using it to ragdoll the Miz, throw him literally from barricade to barricade, literally like throwing him back and forth. And showing a lot more of the Claudio Castagnoli character than Antonio Cesaro. And it was awesome, because if Mark Henry just power slams the Great Khali, okay, fine. But the Miz isn't a small guy, but he's not a big guy either. But it takes a sheer load of strength in order to be able to ragdoll someone like Antonio Cesaro did with the giant swing. That was awesome, and it was very Kings of Wrestling. So I was really happy to see it. I love The Miz, but it was awesome. Cesaro and The Miz, the feud just heating up when we thought it was over. So up next, we saw Epico and Primo in the ring with the very gorgeous Rosa Mendez, who I ended up liking a whole lot more after I was at Raw, for a good reason. And facing the Hip Hop Hippo and Brodus Clay, and of course with the Funkadactyls, who looked amazing as always. So basically, Tensai is still dressed as he is, but he's still dancing. So transition period aside, it'll happen eventually. So I think the Hip Hop Hippo is coming back. What do you call him? Hip Hop Hippo Tensai? Nah, it's not going to work. So basically, Brodus ends up hitting the Exploder Suplex, the She-Plex in this case. Primo missed the elbow, headbutt on Epico, tag him for the senton, and they get the pinfall. And it was about a minute and a half. So Brodus is dancing, and he's doing Gangnam Style, and Tensai starts dancing as well. Rosa objects. Naomi and Cameron toss her out, and Naomi literally does a complete front flip over the top rope, and Cameron dives through like a suicide dive through the legs of Naomi and nails Rosa with the, oh my god, long day, with the baseball slide drop kick. And then we dance, and it was awesome, and they did the shovel, and it was cool, and they both did Gangnam Style, and it was fun. So that was our fun moment of the evening. So the Shield came out now, and some of the people were actually popping for them, because they're awesome. Dean Ambrose basically said, the Shield is here to protect us from the atrocities, like how John Cena threatened the Shield. Seth Rollins is on the mic, and he basically questions how Cena and company believe they can stop the Shield with words, because the Shield do it with actions. They call out Sheamus, Cena, and Ryback. They don't get an answer. So Ambrose says Cena couldn't do it with half the roster, and he failed. Just like he fails every time he gets up in the morning, and his existence in general. Cena believes he can smile the day away, do and say what he wants, but that's not the world we live in. That's what's called the John Cena problem. John Moxley, speaking for the IWC. Anyway, so Roman Reigns speaks, somewhat, and says he's been the problem for the past decade. Rollins says this Sunday, a decade of injustice will end. They call out Cena one more time, the lights go out, and we're expecting a gong. But it's basically the Shield getting a taste of their own medicine, because Cena, Ryback, and Sheamus hit the ring, and they attack. They beat the Shield down, they send the Shield to the outside, and they try to retreat, and Cena's group basically fights them through the crowd, and they retreat through the stands, and that's pretty much how we end the segment. So, Damien Sandow comes out now, so the other half of Mustachio and the Beard himself, Damien Sandow, he says the abyss of the Grammys are behind us. Yes, very true. And we're now in the mecca of country music, which is not a good thing. It's all about dead dogs, old pickup trucks, ignoramuses, getting their hearts broken. It's shameful how we listen to that rather than Beethoven and Mozart. He's not here to agitate us, but to save us from our self-imposed stupidity. You're welcome. Another tremendous promo for Damien Sandow. So Alberto Del Rio comes out, and Babyface Fire just immediately... But he gets stopped quickly with knees by Sandow. He hits the Russian leg sweep and the Cubetto Acquiette, which is the elbow of disdain. And Del Rio fires back with clotheslines, takes him down, hits the side thrust kick right to the side of the head, only gets a near fall. Sandow gets back up, he rolls up, grabs the arm, rolls into the cross arm breaker, locks in the Jujigatami and a quick tap out. Only about a minute and 20. Del Rio gets on the mic, he basically told the Big Show he had the best promo of his career tonight. And Del Rio basically says with show's silence, it's not about parking lots, buses, or anything else, it's about this coming Sunday. And then when the Big Show loses, he can take his huevos and go anywhere like Mexico, but Del Rio's going to Mania, and he points at the sign. So Wade Barrett's in action next, and Bo Dallas jumps him from behind in a very weak attack, and assaults him for getting jumped the week before by Barrett, and then the officials pull him off, and Wade holds his shoulder in pain. Up next, we had a non-title match between Wade Barrett and, of course, it seems like the poster child of the promo, at least, for main event in Kofi Kingston. And Kofi started off with some kicks early, but of course, Barrett shrugs him off with an elbow, drills him with some knee strikes, so Kofi fires back with some clotheslines, drop kick, and he basically hits the Shadows from Hell, which is Delirious's move, which he's been using a lot lately, which is basically his dive off the top rope and splash to the lower back, which I think Barrett sold really well. It's really interesting to see him using Delirious's move. But basically, he hit that and only got a 2 count from it. So Kofi hits a slingshot kick in the corner, hits the crossbody, only gets a 2 count. So Barrett goes for the whip, nails the Winds of Change, which I still don't know why. I know obviously you're not going to call it the Black Hole Slam, but why don't you at least reference the Big Boss Man? I know he's not a Hall of Famer, but he could be eventually. So, I mean, it's a swinging version of his side slam, and they need to learn that. Like, Boss Man didn't do anything in the company. He goes for the bullhammer, he's getting ready for it. Kofi ducks, goes for Trouble in Paradise. Barrett goes to the floor in a really awesome spot. He ducks out to the outside, Kofi follows. Barrett throws the ring apron over his face, like hockey jersey style. Bam! Bullhammer, knocks him cold, rolls him back in the ring, gets the 3 count. He basically yells out he wants Bo Dallas, and we go to commercial. So we go to Kane versus Dolph Ziggler, and this match, of course, will determine who's going to the Elimination Chamber. It's kind of a junky match, honestly. Ziggs knows how to steal the show, but the match just didn't work for me, honestly. So we're going to pick up from the commercial break. Ziggler goes for the sleeper hold. Kane snapmares him out of it. Uppercut in the corner clothesline. Ziggler gets the boot up, and he goes up top, but Kane knocks him to the outside. So basically Langston stands in his way so he can't attack from behind. So Ziggler ends up ramming Kane into the barricade. So Ziggler hit a neck breaker off the ropes for 2. He nails 8 elbows, which 7 and the big leaping one in 8, and only gets the near fall. So Kane counters the crossbody, he floats over, hits his jumping snap DDT, another near fall. So Kane goes to the big boot, hits a near fall, clothesline, and Ziggler goes for the zigzag, hits it this time, another near fall. So Ziggler goes for it again, Kane grabs the rope, shrugs him off, sidewalk slam. So Kane goes up top for the top rope clothesline, AJ goes for the distraction. So Kane flies off, Ziggler dodges, and Dolph knocks AJ off the apron into the arms of Big E Langston. So Ziggler is distracted, Kane goozle, choke slam, and 1, 2, 3. So we have our Elimination Chamber now set. It's Kane, Daniel Bryan, Mark Henry, Jack Swagger, Chris Jericho, and Randy Orton, and the winner will face the World Heavyweight Champion at WrestleMania. Now, any of these people could possibly win, and I'll tell you very soon about who I think will win, because we'll talk about Elimination Chamber predictions in the next couple of days. So we talk about the history of the Chamber, the last big step to the road to WrestleMania, and no one ever leaves the Chamber the same. So The Rock comes out for the final promo of the evening because he ends the show. That's just how it works. So basically, The Rock has come back to Nashville, and of course you were expecting to come every way, and it got a huge pop like it should. So it's story time with The Rock. Said Nashville's a very special city to The Rock, and basically when he was 15, his family moved to Nashville. He signed up for McGavick High School, which was a huge cheap pop, and actually got some booze too, actually, really interesting. He said he was big for his size, but he got no play from the girls because they thought he was an undercover cop. But he hung out in the bar, and he got some drinks. And he asked who he saw, and he actually name-dropped Jeff Jarrett, which got an interesting pop from the crowd, and a deafening silence from Jerry Lawler, who was pretty much laughing through this whole segment, because he knew all about this. And it's funny because The Rock was drinking with his buddy Downtown Bruno, which is awesome, because for you people that don't know, Downtown Bruno Lauer, was known in the WWF as Harvey Whippleman. Harvey Whippleman was like the Weasley-looking guy with the white cap and the white shoes. He managed a whole lot of superstars. Sid, when Rhonda Singh was in the company, when she was Bertha Faye, he managed her, and they had that strange relationship they end up having. But I really popped for the fact we brought up Dutch Mantel was on the program, Jeff Jarrett was name-dropping the program, and Downtown Bruno was name-dropping the program. The only thing missing from this was a mention of Miss Texas or Iceman King Parsons, and it would have been totally USWA all day, every day. But, basically, he was talking about how a crackhead came to the bar. He offered him a blue beat-up Thunderbird for $75, and The Rock ended up buying it, and there was a crackhead in the back seat, and The Rock told him to get out of his new whip, and he figured the vehicle was stolen, so instead of turning into the cops, he did what a very mature 15-year-old Rock would do. He left it in a Burger King parking lot, and he walked back to Tootsie's Bar, which got a huge pop. And he also, of course, discussed his first match back in Flex Cavana days in the Nashville Fairgrounds, when he was getting paid independent money and working at the flea markets. Independent program, really interesting. So, Call to Personality hits, and him and Paul Heyman come out, and he makes a very dumb Twilight joke that just really sucked. And about the hug from earlier. He says the stipulation's fine just to bring it, and he calls Punk to the ring to get his ass whooped all the way from all around Nashville. So Punk and Heyman head to the ring, they stop, Heyman says, "I got your back." Punk slides in the ring, starts hammering on Rock, Rock hits lefts and rights, he reverses, Punk with some punches of his own, Rock reverses the whip, spine on the pine, stiff spine buster, goes for the people's elbow, Heyman trips him up in a spot that I've done before, and Punk grabs up Rocky, go to sleep, lays him out, and he grabs his WWE title. Punk gets on the mic and says, "Story time is over for The Rock." Every time he decides to bring it, Punk will do what he just did now and take it. Raises the championship belt in the air, and Rocky struggles to get to his feet as we fade to black. Good go-home edition. I totally liked it. A couple things I didn't like very much, honestly, when it comes down to it. Squash Great Khali's fine. I think Cesaro was a lot more impressive in the strength department. Sorry, if you want to push Mark Henry as the world's strongest man, you got to make him look a little bit more menacing, and you don't do it at the same time that you just had Khali take the neutralizer 2 weeks in a row. Jericho and Daniel Bryan, great match. I want to see him get 20 minutes. squash on the 3MB, but it was pretty much to associate Cena, Ryback, and Sheamus as a cohesive unit to go against the Shield. I say they lose on Sunday. Bringing in Dutch Mantel to manage Jack Swagger is not good on the mic. Is going to help his career tenfold. I was happy to see Zack Ryder, Alex Riley, and Yoshitatsu on Raw, even if for just a while. Miz and Cody Rhodes, kind of a disjointed match, wasn't terrible, and the Cesaro-Miz feud continues. The Funkadactyls are awesome, and I can see them totally getting into in-ring matches. Apparently they were on Main Event, and I obviously didn't get to see that because I don't have Ion. But, you get to see them in the ring, and the Tensai Brodus Clay team continues. ADR has a match against Damian Sandow, which should have got a whole lot more time. I'd see these guys doing at least 15-20 minutes because it'd be amazing. I still am not sold on Bo Dallas because he's very bland. I think Wade Barrett should be World Heavyweight Champion, but that's another story altogether. Made the wrong move putting Kane in the Elimination Chamber except for Ziggler, unless there's going to be a Ziggler cash-in, and I really think Ziggler should wait till Mania to cash in. The opportunist he is. Basically, they bookended it so Hell No can break up inside the Elimination Chamber by eliminating each other, so basically one guy will get eliminated and the other one will cause him to get eliminated by someone else. That's pretty much exactly what's going to happen. And The Rock's promo, Storytime of The Rock, was entertaining and educational, especially for longtime fans who remember these times. And I really like seeing Punk knock him out at the end of the show, but if you lose Wrestling Logic 101, that means that Rocky's winning on Sunday, which I think there still could be a possibility of a swerve, especially with the added stipulation of the countout and disqualification giving Punk the belt. So that was my Raw recap, and wow, what a long video we've had. Almost 50 minutes chronicling Raw from tonight. I did enjoy the show, and I will enjoy, like I said, wrestling fans, join me for later this week. We're going to talk Elimination Chamber, and I'm also going to review TNA Impact on Friday. So, until tomorrow, that's all I got to say about that.